Tyler from Aspire Sports. Today's video, I'm going to give you my do not draft wide receivers for the 2021 fantasy football draft. Now, I want to make it clear. These aren't guys that I wouldn't draft if the price was right. If the price was right, I would draft them. But currently, at their current ADP, where they're being drafted, I just don't have interest in them. There's other guys that are going around them that I find myself drafting way more than these guys. So if they fall to the certain price, then yes, I'm in. But currently, no. So I'll give you some of the other guys that I like to draft instead of them and why I don't like to draft these guys. Also, if you find yourself at any part of the video liking the content, make sure you smash that like button for me. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate it. So with that being said, let's get into the video. The first wide receiver on my do not draft list is Kenny Golladay. Kenny Golladay is currently being drafted as wide receiver number 25 in fantasy football, and there's just other guys in that range that I'd rather draft. Guys like Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk. All of those guys I'd rather have over Kenny Golladay. So if Kenny Golladay falls to like wide receiver number 28, 30 range, I'd feel okay drafting him back there, but currently I'm out, and here's the reasons why. First reason, his situation. He currently has Daniel Jones as his quarterback. I'm not a big believer in Daniel Jones. We need to see a Josh Allen transformation out of Daniel Jones this upcoming season, and I just find that hard to believe. We have Drew Lock. He's my golden boy, all right? He's going to be the one that's going to see that transformation. We can't have two quarterbacks. So for me, I'm out on Daniel Jones. Also, you have Darius Slayton. You have Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram, Saquon Barkley in this backfield, all guys who are going to command targets. You have the New York Giants last year attempted the 7th least passing attempts in the NFL and ran the 3rd least offensive plays in the NFL last year as well. So just not a lot of volume to go around. This is a low passing volume offense that wants to run the football and play good defense. Also, Kenny Golladay misses a lot of time. Over the past 4 years, he's missed 15 games. Now, a lot of that came from last year. But you also had him already hurt and miss a significant injury in training camp with a hamstring injury. So he's now missing valuable time to develop chemistry with Daniel Jones. So for all those reasons, he's on my do not draft list. So Kenny Golladay, the first player. The second wide receiver for me, DJ Chark. DJ Chark is currently being drafted as wide receiver number 33 in fantasy football. And I look at it, and then you look at Marvin Jones, who's being drafted way later. And I'd just rather take my shot on Marvin Jones. There's other guys going in this range, like your Jerry Jeudy, Robbie Anderson, Devontae Smith, that I'd rather take my shots on than DJ Chark. DJ Chark in 2019 was very good. He was a top 20 wide receiver with Gardner Minshew under center. 2020 was a different story, largely due to inconsistent quarterback play, and also he played hurt throughout the season, which definitely affected it. Now he's currently hurt in camp again. He had surgery on his finger due to a hairline fracture. So he's missing precious time with Trevor Lawrence to develop a solid chemistry. Then you have Marvin Jones in the preseason game look like the number 1 wide receiver in this offense. So Marvin Jones is just a guy, if you watch my previous video, that I'd rather take my shot on later in the draft. If DJ Chark falls around the same range, I'd rather take DJ Chark. But currently, Marvin Jones is just way too valuable to pass up. So for me, I'd rather wait for Marvin Jones than draft DJ Chark this early. The third wide receiver on this list, Deebo Samuel. Deebo is currently being drafted as wide receiver number 34. And like DJ Chark, there's just other guys in his range that I'd rather take over him. Guys like Jerry Jeudy, Robbie Anderson, Devontae Smith are all guys that I'd rather take that I see having higher ceilings than Deebo Samuel. Deebo is very, very good at yards after the catch. Last year, he averaged over 12 yards after the catch, which was over 3 yards more than the next closest wide receiver. So he's very good at what he does. But then you look at his average depth of target last year, which was 2.2 yards. So he needs to be a gadget kind of guy, or else the value's not really there for him. And currently you have him third in the pecking order on this offense behind George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk. So me personally, I'd rather take my shot on a guy like him and Rondale Moore, who's going much later. I'm not even the biggest Rondale Moore fan, but he currently looks like they want to get him the ball in space. He's basically a Deebo Samuel, a little bit smaller, plays on a more high volume passing offense then San Francisco, and could be their number 2 wide receiver. So for me, I'd rather take my shot on a player like this later in the draft than Rondale Moore than take a shot on Deebo, who doesn't project to have a very high ceiling. So the third player, Deebo Samuel. The fourth wide receiver for me, Mike Williams. Mike Williams currently being drafted as wide receiver number 46, and there's just other guys that are going in his range that I'd rather take my shot on. Guys like Jalen Waddle, Michael Pittman Jr., Darnell Mooney. I'd rather take my shot on Marvin Jones, Marquez Callaway than Mike Williams. And I get it, this might not be super popular because a lot of people do like Mike Williams heading into the season. But for me, we've seen what Mike Williams is. Mike Williams is an average NFL wide receiver. He's broken 1,000 yards one time in his career, and that was by a yard. He had that 10 touchdown season back in 2018. We've just been hyping him up ever since then, hoping to see that again. Is it likely with Justin Herbert under the center? Even though he had Justin Herbert under center for majority of the season last year, it never happened. Can this be the year that he puts it all together? Certainly. Is it likely? To me, no. He's probably going to be the same player that we've seen every single year, where over the past 3 years, he's finished outside of the top 40 in points per game at the wide receiver position. So what makes us think it's going to change this upcoming season? I think it's going to be the same. So for those reasons, I'm out on Mike Williams, and I'd rather just take these other guys that are going around him. Also, I want to include that Josh Palmer has reportedly looked good in camp. You'll also have Tyron Johnson there and Jalen Guyton, Guyton, that have been looking good. They looked good last year. So I'm out on Mike Williams. They don't look like they want to sign him either, so I'm good. Mike Williams, wide receiver number 4. The fifth wide receiver on the list, last wide receiver for me, Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas is currently being drafted as wide receiver number 28. Now, his injury hasn't fully caught up to the ADP. His ADP is still way too high, and I see him really going on like round 7, 8, 9, 10, like in that range. This past weekend, though, I saw him go in round 5. And round 5, and that wasn't on auto draft. Somebody picked him in round 5. To me, way too early. If it's like round 13, 14, 15, I'll take my shot, but he never gets it back that late. So personally, I'm all out. I'd rather take a guy like Marquez Callaway. And why? Because you have Michael Thomas. There's a real chance that he doesn't come back this upcoming season. The team has been weird. This whole situation has been really weird with him and the team. So there's a chance he doesn't come out. Next year, they have a potential out on this contract. So maybe he doesn't come back this season as a free agent or gets traded next season. Also, you have the fantasy football doc and also the pro football doc talk about Michael Thomas and this injury. They don't expect him to come back till week 10. And when he comes back, he's not going to be anywhere near 100%. So for all those reasons, I'd rather take a Marquez Callaway, a guy that's, barring injury, is going to play the full season and be their wide receiver number 1. So I'd rather take guys like that than take my shot on Michael Thomas, where he's going to sit in my IR spot all season long until he finally comes back. And that's if he comes back, when I can get like guys like Brandon Cooks, Jarvis Landry, Marvin Jones, just guys that I'd rather take over him. So I'm out on Michael Thomas. And that's the last guy. So let me know, who are some of your do not draft wide receivers for this upcoming season. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.